Hello. This video will briefly introduce you to the experiment on meditation in which you will participate. The experiment will be conducted at the offices of the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies, IACS, in Santa Monica, California. This experiment is intended to identify the brainwaves associated with different states throughout your Vipassana meditation. You were selected for this study based on your extensive experience with Vipassana meditation. Therefore, during the study, we encourage you to employ your typical process as you would do during your daily meditation. Your main task in this experiment will be to rate the depth of your meditation on a scale from 1 to 5 at various points throughout the study and as accurately as is possible. Please review these materials prior to your arrival. If you have any questions, please email nico@advancedconsciousness.org. You may also reference the PDF document included with this video and email. Upon arriving in the lab, you'll be asked to take a few short questionnaires that we encourage you to answer as honestly as possible. You will not be judged on your responses, and all responses are de-identified. Afterwards, you'll be set up with an EEG and some other body sensors. As a reminder, the EEG requires us putting conductive gel onto parts of your head and hair. We kindly request that you do not use any products in your hair that day and do not have any tight braids or dreadlocks. A shower will easily wash away all the gel, but parts of your hair may be unsightly and stiff until then. This experiment is made up of 6 blocks or periods of time. You will see instructions before each block and will be able to ask questions before starting. We will familiarize you with the tasks to help you be prepared, and will go over everything and answer any questions the day of the experiment. Generally speaking, your eyes are closed for the entirety of each block and remain closed until you hear 3 gongs. 3 gongs in a row is always your signal to open your eyes. Importantly, you are not expected to learn these details. We only mean to introduce you to the tasks to make the experiment feel more comfortable and natural to you. The first task is mind wandering. During these 5 minutes, we ask that you keep your eyes closed the entire time. We ask that you do your best to not meditate during this time, instead feeling free to let your mind wander as you so please. When the 5 minutes have passed, you will hear 3 gongs. This marks the end of the block, and you can open your eyes. The next block is a 5-minute meditation block. You don't need to do anything other than meditate as you normally would. You don't need to self-report during this period. At the end of the 5 minutes, you will hear a voice that will ask you to report the depth of your meditation on a scale from 1 to 5, and then the confidence of your report on a scale from 1 to 5. After making your responses, you will hear 3 gongs. This marks the end of the block, and you can open your eyes. The meditation task blocks are the main part of the experiment. During each of these blocks, you will be asked to meditate as you normally do for a period of 35 minutes. However, you will also be asked to report your meditation depth. There are 2 different ways you will be asked to report depending on which task type is randomly assigned to you that day. In one block, you will be probed or asked at random intervals to report your meditative depth for the period of time prior to the probe. In the other block, you will self-report your meditation depth for the time period preceding the moment you noticed your mind had wandered. One of the meditation task blocks will be a self-report task where you will be asked to report the depth of your meditation after having emerged, becoming aware that your mind had started to wander and was no longer focused on your meditation. The depth you indicate should reflect the deepest experience of meditation that occurred since your last response. Once you provide your meditative depth, you will also be asked to report on a scale of 1 to 5 your confidence in your response. After responding to these 2 questions, you will be asked to return to your meditation. This will mark the beginning of the next meditation period. During the self-report block, we encourage you to make as many reports as you feel appropriate, erring on the side of reporting more frequently as opposed to less. In the self-report meditation task block, you will make a quick series of button presses between 1 press and 5 total presses to indicate the depth of the meditation that you just became aware of having surfaced from. After making your response, a voice will ask you to then rate your confidence in how well you responded to your meditation depth. You will have approximately 3 seconds to respond. If you were initially unable to respond and evaluate your self-reported meditation depth in time, please press a 1 for the confidence question. You will be provided a button clicker and it will be placed on your finger. Both of the top 2 buttons work, so please use whichever feels the most comfortable. During the meditation task blocks, the number of button presses you make should indicate the depth of your meditation since your last response. Please use the following scale to help you determine how many button presses between 1 and 5 you should make. 1 press means extremely shallow. 2 presses means very shallow. 3 presses means neither shallow nor deep. 4 presses means very deep. 5 presses means extremely deep. In the event that you make an error responding or realize after responding that your response did not truly capture your experience, you can indicate this on your confidence rating. For confidence ratings, 1 press means an incorrect button response was made. 2 presses means not confident. 3 presses means somewhat confident. 4 presses means confident. 5 presses means very confident. After responding to the depth and confidence questions, you'll be asked to return to your meditation. This will mark the beginning of the next meditation session. After providing these reports, we encourage you to immediately try and resubmerge back into your meditative state. It's okay to miss the response window. Please simply continue with the experiment. When reporting your meditation depth, if you feel you have made an incorrect assessment or you're not confident in your response, you can indicate so with your confidence measure. The other meditation task block will be a probe task where you will hear a voice over the headphones at random intervals, asking you to provide the depth of your meditation for the period of time since your last response, as well as your confidence in your depth rating. In this condition, you are asked to only provide your meditation depth and confidence when asked. Do not self-report during the probe sequence task. Just meditate as normal until you hear the voice. The depth you indicate should be a reflection of the deepest state of meditation that occurred since we last asked you. Once you have finished responding to the probes, meditation depth and confidence in response, you will be asked to return to your meditation. This will mark the beginning of the next meditation session. Your next response to the meditative depth should only refer to the preceding period of time. In the probe meditation task block, you will have approximately 3 seconds to respond to questions throughout the experiment, so we encourage you to respond as quickly and intuitively as possible. If you are unable to respond and evaluate your meditation depth in time, please press a 1 for the confidence question. It's okay to miss the response window. Please simply continue with the experiment. When reporting your meditation depth, if you feel you've made an incorrect assessment or you're not confident in your response, you can indicate so with your confidence measure. During both the self-report and probe meditation task blocks, you may or may not, due to randomization, hear a series of 3 tones: a standard tone, the most common tone, a deviant tone, a higher pitch tone occurring less often, and a distractor tone, a white noise tone also occurring less often. These tones will be continuously presented in the background. During the meditation blocks, you are not required to do anything other than ignore these tones to the best of your ability while remaining focused on your meditation. During both the self-report and probe meditation task blocks, you will sometimes hear a single gong. This is a simple reminder to gently bring your attention back to your meditation. No response is necessary, and you should continue to keep your eyes closed. Anytime you hear 3 gong sounds in a row during the experiment, this is a signal that the block is over and you may open your eyes. Until you hear 3 gong sounds, be sure to keep your eyes closed, even when responding with the button presses. In between the 2 meditation task blocks will be an audio task block. This task is comprised of a series of 3 tones: a standard tone, the most common tone, a deviant oddball tone, a higher-pitched tone occurring less often, and a distractor tone, a white noise tone also occurring less often. These are the same tones that you were instructed to ignore during the meditation task blocks. Only during the audio task block will you be instructed to actively pay attention to these tones during your closed eye meditation and respond with a button press whenever you hear the deviant or higher pitched oddball tone. The final block is meditation. Just like the first 5-minute meditation block, you will not be asked to do anything. We ask that you meditate as you normally would. You don't need to self-report during this period. At the end of the 5 minutes, you will hear a voice that will ask you to report the depth of your meditation on a scale from 1 to 5, and then the confidence of your report on a scale from 1 to 5. After making your responses, you will hear 3 gongs. This marks the end of the block, and you can open your eyes. Some additional instructions. Throughout the entire experiment, we ask that you remain as still as possible. This is because EEG data and measurements are easily disrupted and rendered unusable in the event there is head, body, and muscle movement. It may help to practice doing the self-report meditation task block at home during your regular meditation sessions so as to familiarize yourself with the act of rating your meditative depth so that you can provide more confident responses. We ask that you maintain normal routines in the days leading up to the experiment, come in well rested, and try to refrain from recreational drug use the day or night before your sessions. If you normally consume caffeine, you should feel free to consume your normal amount. Otherwise, we ask that you continue to refrain the day of your session. Some reminders. 1 gong is simply a reminder to bring your attention to your practice. No response is needed. 3 gongs means open your eyes. Eyes should be closed at all other block times. You should try to ignore the tones presented in the background of the meditation task blocks. You only need to respond to the oddball tone during the audio task block. Make as many spontaneous responses during the self-report meditation task block as you feel necessary. Depth should reflect the deepest point you reached during the response period. Thank you. Your participation in this study is genuinely appreciated. You are helping to advance the scientific understanding of the brain during the meditative experience. We strongly encourage you to share our sign-up link at meditation.studyenrollment.com with anyone you feel would also qualify.